right. Actually, 88 miles northeast of LA.
Oh, you were kind of close to the Bundys down there, weren't you?
Yeah, not too far. Probably about 4 hours away. Yeah. What was the outcome with that? I didn't follow.
Well, they still got people camping out on their property there. The BLM backed off, but Senator Harry Reid referred to him as a...
Discover what's really
Hang
going
on
on in the news
All right.
that mainstream media won't tell you. Are you frustrated with your elected politicians? Get the news behind the news at truthradio.com. At Truth Radio, you can listen live or listen to a large selection of archived programs on demand. Listen when you want to. truthradio.com. The truth is out there. All you have to do is open your mind and listen.
Today, we're all going to learn a new term. It's only 2 words. Now listen closely. Can all of you say constructive fraud?
Constructive fraud!
Did you ever get the feeling as you're staring at the ceiling? He took an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States of America.
And the present takes us till they find us in a grave somewhere.
By some, he's been called controversial.
Though but we never seem to get too far. Well, if you think you're being taken, then you're ready to awaken to the truth of what we really are.
Now, keep in mind that some of my guests have been approached by Homeland Security or FBI saying, why are you going on the Clay Douglas show?
My message to those guys, if they're listening this morning, is go get a cup of coffee. Maybe you'll learn something.
We both took the same oath, to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I don't recall there being an expiration date on that.
And as long as we stay passive, we'll succumb.
He is the free American, Clay Douglas.
Realistic strong. Where the naked truth and fact is, we're all strapped to pay our taxes, and that is why the banksters keep us down.
Catch the Free American weekdays at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern.
We learn in public school and did our fathers off of history, all fighting back for liberty so we could play the tyrant fool.
For the podcast and more details, visit www.freeamerican.com or catch the podcast by phone by calling 832-999-8621.
Indentured servitude slave, overburdened and bewildered, feudal man.
All right, shifting gears here. My guest for my second hour is Jennifer Elizabeth Masters. She is the self-love guru. Born and raised in Toronto, Jennifer has probably been more places than I have. She set out on a journey that would take her all around the world, from Europe to India, Bali, across the United States, living in Montreal, London, Gaithersburg, Maryland, Atlanta, Boulder, Colorado, and now in the sunny Mojave Desert of California. Jennifer has seized each moment and found sweetness in every breath. She's an author, hypnotherapist, certified life coach, mother of 3, master energy healer, and ordained minister. Welcome, Jennifer.
Well, thank you, Clay. I'm glad to be here.
Great to have you here. There's so many key words here in your introduction that I'm really interested in. I found out a long time ago that very difficult to hypnotize. I certainly am not particularly vulnerable to propaganda, and the master energy healer really intrigues me. I was just talking about it with my first guest. I've got a friend that's on the chat room now. His name's David Koss. He wrote a book called Farm Physics, and he's made some videos talking about a cure for cancer. And the way he does that was what he calls spinning your water or spinning your coffee. I do that every morning sitting here doing my videos. You simply hold one hand, 3 fingers touching your thumb, put it together, put it on one side of the coffee cup, hold it that way for about 30 seconds, and your coffee tastes better, your wine tastes better. If you happen to be drinking Coca-Cola, it goes flat. So we know it's doing something. This is the energy. And I also, in reading this and looking over your sites, you know, I thought about the definition of love. You know what the love is actually an anagram for your level of vibrational energy, and the more you love, the closer you are to God, I think. How about that for an opening?
I love that, Clay. That feels right. I like that. I'd like to add, you know, I want you to know that I'm in good company with most of your previous guests. You know, when you change your name more than 5 times, you're on the government watch list. And I've been married and divorced 4 times and changed my name 5. So I just wanted you to know that my journey has taken me a lot of places, not just in different countries, but through different relationships. That's how we grow and learn.
Well, they've written songs about me, you know. I just heard it. I just heard it on my little radio here, my stereo. All my exes live in Texas. I've been married about 5 times. I've been in 49 states at one time or another, and 8 or 9 countries. I'm not quite sure how many, because when you're searching for gold in the jungle, it's hard to tell where the border is. So I may have been in 9 countries. Don't really know. But yeah, the ex-wife certainly taught me a lesson, but I haven't. Maybe I still haven't recovered from that yet.
Well, the key thing is that every relationship we have teaches us more about ourselves. And what happens usually at the end of a marriage, we're so ticked off and angry that the focus is on the other person. And instead, we need to turn the focus inward and look inside. And what happened to me was, after my 3rd marriage ended, and I had, I didn't jump from, bed to bed. I had 10 years in between, but I recognized that I was the common denominator in all my failed relationships. And I started to look. I made a relationship matrix with the names down one side and then all the things that happened in the relationships. And what was common was that I felt like a victim. I felt abused. And, of course, that came from my childhood. So all of us have trauma somewhere in our lives. But the key thing is to grow and heal from it, to look inside. And most of us don't love ourselves enough, and so we're looking for someone else to fulfill us. And then we always come up short, because no one can love us enough when we don't love ourselves.
Well, I've always been pretty comfortable with me, and I've been divorced and been alone for 10 years, and I get along with me pretty well.
Well, you are probably in the minority. I love being alone with myself too, but there was a time when I didn't. There was a time I looked for love outside of myself. I felt like it was a relationship that would fulfill me. And, when I got married and got into a relationship, I was still unhappy, and I was still me. And that's the problem, is especially women. We think that being married is going to make us happy and fulfill us, but it doesn't. unless you're already happy and fulfilled going into the marriage, going into the relationship, then you're going to find that you blame your partner, and it's your partner's fault that you're not happy.
I think I keep hearing music in my mind. If the devil has a daughter, she's sitting next to me. and I think I may not have married him, but I think I might have moved a succubus or two in. And some people do drain you, don't they? They're like energy vampires, aren't they?
Well, yes, and that's because they're empty. So they're looking for someone else to fulfill them. Remember the movie Jerry Maguire? And
yes.
I can't remember her name. The leading lady across from Tom Cruise, she says, "Do you complete me?" Well, when we're looking for someone, it sounded so romantic, but when we're looking for someone else to complete us, it never happens. It's not possible.
That wasn't the woman that said, "Show me the money," was it? I think that was Jerry Maguire, was it?
Yes, that was Jerry Maguire. But that's why I wrote the book Orgasm for Life. Men and women have such different wiring. I mean, men are turned on in the morning, and women, their biorhythms are different. So we have so many things that keep us apart. And I wrote this book, Orgasm for Life, to bridge the gap, because we all would love to have a relationship with our partners, but they're very difficult. And so I wrote this book to help with communication, because women speak and men don't hear. And so and that can be irritating for men, because women typically hear from most men is that women just talk incessantly about stuff that means nothing to them. And so we can irritate our partners, to the point that they don't want to be with us. So how do we be together with our spouse, with our partner, and be together in harmony?
Now, you've got a new book out, don't you? Aren't you working on a book now, or you got it out now? What is that?
Yes. It's coming out at the end of this month. It's called Orgasm for Life.
All right. Now, there we're getting into interesting topic there. I've been told that a lot of women don't even know what an orgasm is. They might have had sex, but they never really had an orgasm, at least not until they met me. I got to do a commercial every now and then. I'm sorry, but
well, no, Clay, absolutely. That's why I wrote the book, because that was the case for me. I'd been married and divorced 4 times, but I wasn't orgasmic. And, think about it. Men, the focus is on having an orgasm. And for women, after 20, 30 years with someone, if they're not having orgasms, they're going to say, you know what? Hell no, I don't want to have sex with you. And see, this is the problem, that by the time women get to be in their late 40s, early 50s, they're about done, because they've given it all, and it hasn't been fulfilling. And so if you want a woman to have sex with you, you have to learn what it is that gets her to that big O. And it's different for men than women, because men can have an orgasm easily through penetration, where women typically don't.
Well,
makes you quiet, doesn't it?
No, I'm just warming up my coffee. I do tell people that about my Facebook and my Skype and my YouTube. That's Free American 6'9", and that ain't the year I graduated. But and I've often thought that possibly I was just a lesbian trapped in a man's body, but
why did you think that, Clay?
Well, because I enjoy pleasuring a woman, not necessarily with penetration.
Well, let me just speak from experience that can be the most pleasurable experience a woman has. You know, a vaginal sex can be nice, it can be pleasant, but the way to bring a woman to orgasm is not through vaginal penetration. It's through oral sex. It's through, manual stimulation. And, until women understand their bodies and what feels good for them, and that's the problem, that most women have no idea. Men know what feels good. They can describe it in minute detail and show you. But women are really reticent to say, well, here, touch me there. Please do this for me. And part of that is because we're concerned about our partner's ego. We don't want to bruise your ego. And a lot of men's self-esteem is really caught up in their prowess. Hey, I'm a great lover. And we, as women, have made the mistake of faking orgasm. And then the men think they're doing their job, and they're not. So if 80% of women are not having orgasms, whose fault is it? Is it the women's? Is it the men's? How about a little of both?
Well, I am an old biker, and if you'll pardon me here, I'd like to just do a little short musical interlude that probably relates to our conversation here.
Turn the shopping carts around. Mama shoots me a dirty look. She thinks I'm just a greasy rebel without a cause. But it's fear that mostly makes them people put us down. But I like to ride big motorcycles, and I like to eat pussy too. I like to kick the shit out of punkers and faggots, and if you don't like it, fuck you.
All right. I'm here. You still got me?
I can hear you. You're a little bit muffled.
Okay, don't know quite what happened. Check that. All right, that should be working properly. You got me okay?
I'm hearing you fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, Mike Jones, he's done some movies and all that. He got an album out called Yesterday, 1903, and one of those songs in there was his girlfriend went out and bought herself a Milwaukee vibrator. That's pretty funny, but...
Well, that brings me to a great subject, and I appreciate you for bringing it up. A lot of men are afraid of vibrators. They think that if the woman brings a vibrator out, that his usefulness will end. Well, that's not true, because we still want you and we need you. But a vibrator could bring a woman to orgasm quickly so that you could bring her to a second, third orgasm before penetration starts. Women are multi-orgasmic. And once they have one orgasm, it's much easier to get her to have another. You just have to give her a bit of a break. But a vibrator could bring her to orgasm quickly, and then you could stimulate her there as well. And so it could give you confidence in the bedroom.
Yes, ma'am. I agree with that. I don't look at it as competition. I look at it as the right tool for the right job.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I like that. may I use that expression?
Absolutely. Now, tell me about your work. How do you do this? What do you do for people? What can you do for people? I mean, I said I've been having this music run through my head almost every interview now. And one of the reoccurring themes is I keep hearing Don Henley talking about met the enemy and he is us. The guest I just had on, he said he talked about that we are our own worst enemy. So we don't talk to each other. We don't communicate well with each other. I mean, I've had to tell a sister-in-law, I've had to educate a sister-in-law on what a conversation is. Conversation is when I talk and you listen, you talk and I listen. You know, you don't just talk all the time and talk over me, and you know, it's got to be a reciprocal arrangement. You know, I want to hear what you got to say. What is the main problem that we have in relationships? Is it not listening? Is it poor sex? Do men just not know how to please a woman? Or is part of it the woman? I mean, you got to be able to turn me on if you want me to, get you off. It's got to work both ways, doesn't it?
Absolutely, but how can you turn me on if I don't tell you what feels good? If mom's the word in the bedroom and I just keep my mouth shut and let you do whatever, then how are you going to know what feels good? And a lot of women are so concerned about how do I look? How does my face look? You know, they're so concerned about how they look that they can't even let go to have an orgasm. And an orgasm is about letting go. It's about letting control. And so many women are in fear of letting go. They're hanging on for dear life in all areas of their relationship, and so they can't let go in the bedroom. And that's what happened for me when I recognized that, you know, not to give a crap about how I look, how my face looks when I'm having an orgasm, and all the sounds. And see, that's the thing. You know, with our mouths closed, you can't have an orgasm. You have to open up. You open your body, you open your mouth, you open your hips, have to move. And a lot of women just lay there. And so, you know, we are responsible for our own happiness. We're responsible for receiving pleasure. And so women have to take ownership for that. It's time for women to stop being mute in the bedroom, to tell their partners, I would prefer if you did it this way. I really like it when you do that, but could you do it harder, or could you do it faster, or could you do it slower? And without any kind of guidance, our men don't know what to do for us. But I also agree that communication is a problem. Women speak and don't listen, men don't listen, and we're not hearing each other. And the other thing is that we're lying. Women often say, oh, I'm fine, and you know that's not true, just by the tone of the voice. So what benefit is it to lie? What benefit is it to fake? All it does is create distance and discord in a relationship.
How do we fix this? I mean, if you're in a relation, I mean, obviously you fell in love at some time in the past, so there was something that attracted you to that partner. How do you fix it? I mean, the only way I see it is just how you just said, communication, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. We've got to have clear communication. There has to be respect, and there has to be trust. Women will not have an orgasm if they don't trust their partner. So if their partner is abusing them or scaring the crap out of them, with one of my husbands did this to me, where he'd come up to me with his fist and put it in my face and threatened to punch me. And every time he got angry, I was terrified. Well, if you're terrifying your wife or your girlfriend, how do you expect her to have any kind of pleasure in the bedroom? She won't trust you. So it's really important to have mutual respect, to be kind and loving to one another, and to be honest. And so communication is foundation. You have to build trust through authenticity, being real, and not lying to one another.
Now, what do you do? Do you give classes? Do you do private consultation? Tell me about how you work.
I am a coach, and I do my work in person and on the phone. So I will travel to people's homes and work with them in their home, in their bedroom. I work over the phone with women. So I do private consultations, absolutely, by phone or Skype. And people can reach me through my blog. I have a blog called Love Yourself Fearlessly, and I have a website, JenniferElizabethMasters.com, and you can find me either way. But yes, I do discovery sessions where I spend some time with you, getting to know what it is you're looking for, and we get to know whether we'd be a good fit for one another. But I'm a life coach, certified life coach, but I use all of my different modalities to help people. And one of my big things is, because sexual molestation in childhood is a really big thing. It's a big problem, and 40% of women are sexually dysfunctional because of some trauma that happened in their childhood. And so that's my area of expertise, helping women to love themselves and become orgasmic. And because I've healed my own self, that I went through life for 50 years without being orgasmic with sex. And so I know, what needs to happen. I know how to help people get there.
Let's see if I've got another little musical interlude here. Can you hear that? Can you hear that?
I can.
A little clearer than you.
But then true beauty comes from deep within. I'll play the fool, and I'll play the star.
I think I know just what your feelings are. Think I'm leaving.
And the heartache closes in. That word seems to make no rhyme or reason. All those girls without you instead. It's not that I haven't had my thoughts of leaving, but darling, you sure give good head.
All right. Another biker, Joe Warren.
Love those musicians that were bikers, or vice versa.
What's that?
I said I love the musicians that are bikers.
Yeah, I've been riding on two wheels for about 60 years.
Wow.
And my only transportation today is a Harley, so I prefer it. Now, do you these sessions. Tell me about these sessions. What do you how do you meet these people? Well, how do they can get you on your sites? I think I've got links. Let me look see what I've got links for you. I've got JenniferElizabethMasters.com.
That's right.
And tell me a little bit about the Spiritual Response Therapy Association for Healers. You know, I learned a long time ago that I can take away headaches. You know, I do know hypnosis, at least enough to glue a friend of mine to a chair occasionally. I think he stopped talking to me after that. But the healing. What do you do? What do you do in healing? I mean, I'm really a pretty much anti-pharmaceutical, AMA doctors. I think the doctors. I do think we got a drug problem in America, and but it ain't. It's the doctors that are responsible.
Well, I agree. Well, I believe that the system was set up so that we will all die expensively from the food that we eat all the way through to the medicine that they give us. And if you stay away from doctors, you'll live a lot longer.
Yeah, I also tell people, you know, take your weapon out, clean it, load it, and shoot the TV, and you'll be a lot better off. They don't call it programming for nothing. They don't call it programming for nothing. So.
Well, you asked me about the energy healing, and yes. I've been a hypnotherapist since 1989, and I've been doing energy healing since 2007, and I've done thousands and thousands of healings for people. And I can do it long distance. I don't have to be near them. And I've done healings for people all around the world. To give you an example of the types of things that I've helped people with, I've had people come to me with crystal meth addictions, and they've been cleared in one session. I've helped people that are suicidal. I've helped people with depression, insomnia, anxiety, panic attacks, low self-esteem, you name it. But one of the things, to just give you a story, I helped this woman. She's in India. She's a doctor in India, and she found me through Facebook, and people can find me on Facebook at Jennifer Elizabeth Masters. And she said, I feel like you can help me. And so we started having conversations on Skype, and I began working with her. She was a single woman, and her father wanted to set her up in a marriage. You know, in India, that's what they do. She was in her 30s, and he felt she should be married. And she was dating a man she didn't love. And so I suggested that they break up. I said, you're not going to find someone when you have someone in your life. And so I started doing energy clearings on her for the programming of unworthiness and blocks to love. And within a couple of months, she met a new man, and there were some issues, so I cleared the issues between the two of them. There's a field that is created between two people. It's called the morphogenic field. So I cleared their field, and I could see that I had to keep my mouth shut. He moved to the United States. He had a business here, and I knew he was going to come back and propose, but I had to keep my mouth shut because some things you just can't tell a client. So he came back and proposed, but then the mother-in-law, his mother got in the way. So then I had to clear the three of them for issues with the mother-in-law. Needless to say, here they are now. I've met them. They came to see me in California last year. They're married. They're expecting their first child in another month. So that's the type of thing that I can do. But I'm not doing it. It's God that's doing it. I am just the vehicle.
Yeah, I have. I've said I've got my own little viewpoints on God. I said, first of all, I don't think he looks anything like Charlton Heston.
I would agree with you.
And if you are omnipotent, omniscient, you can do anything, you know everything, and you're the only one of your kind in this part of the universe. I said, what are you? And people said, well, you're God, you know. I said, yeah, but what else are you? I think you got to be bored to tears. So what do? You create us with a little spark of the divinity that we call the soul, that we call conscience, that we call ESP, and you sit back behind your eyes and my eyes and say, well, I wonder how Jennifer and Clay are going to handle this. I wonder how they're going to get along. I wonder. And like Shakespeare said, the whole world's a stage. And we've got free will, so we can decide whether we want to be good, we want to be evil, and we got direct access. So I don't think we really need the preachers. We don't need the rabbis. We don't need the churches, because every time I walk outside that door, I'm in my church, and I can talk to God as easily as a preacher can.
Well, I agree with you. You brought up a really strong and valid point. My feeling is that God never intended religion to be set up the way it was. It was set up by man, not by God. And so it's all upside down and backwards. We were taught to be in fear of God, and yet, there's nothing to fear. The way I look at it is God is more of a consciousness than a being. And it's an all-pervading essence that is in everything and every one of us, which connects us all. And, we're all connected with this primordial essence. So each and every one of us has part of the other within. So if you hate someone else, you hate yourself. If you harm someone else, you harm yourself. When one is harmed, all are harmed. So, if everyone loved themselves the way we're meant to, we wouldn't have wars. We wouldn't need governments. We wouldn't need this control that's happening. But that's the problem. Those people don't love themselves. They have more self-hatred than love within them. We were all raised to condemn ourselves and to beat ourselves up. One of the ways I teach is that I show up on stage with a big bat in one hand and a magnifying glass in the other. And I drag the baseball bat behind me, and then I shine the magnifying glass on all my body parts, making faces like, ew, 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 look at this, oh, my butt's too big, oh, my boobs are too small. This is what we do to ourselves. We're constantly condemning instead of loving. We're criticizing instead of accepting. And when we can't accept ourselves, how on earth can you accept the love from another? And if you can't be happy alone with you, how could anyone be happy with you either?
Well, I almost feel like you've been reading a lot of my writing here. I said I've tried to point out those who are trying to enslave or control us, but we must fight evil without becoming evil. I said, as Willie Nelson, one of our great American heroes, said, my heroes have always been cowboys, but I do not hate Indians. My brothers, our fathers and grandfathers, all veterans, fought the Germans, the Chinese, the Vietnamese, the Russians, the Iraqis, the Afghans, and the Jews. But we should recognize that we're all victims of our own criminal controllers, our own governments, and we should find a way to work together without hate or fear. We need a vision of community of nations working together for the common good and the welfare of all.
Well, absolutely. But here's the thing: is that we, as a society, we are much more controllable when we're in fear.
That's right. That's you know, my some of our talk show hosts and our television. They want you to be afraid, be very, very afraid. You know, and they've been doing to us for decades. The Russians are coming. The Russians are coming. So what? The Russians aren't our enemy. The Chinese aren't the enemy. The people that are in the government, you know, and our presidents are just as guilty of this. You know, they're the ones that we should be, that are trying to instill the fear. And what is there to be, there really is nothing to be afraid of. Like I said, the whole Cold War was nothing but a propaganda program designed to sell weapons. And the bankers fund both sides. If you got an enemy out there, folks, it ain't the Russians or the Chinese. It's the bankers that take your money.
That's true. That's true. And American government has, it's really interesting because they funded the Afghanis, and the very people that they then went after, saying that they were the enemy, were the people that they were in bed with. So don't get me started on that. Let's get back to sex.
Okay. Yeah, I talk about this other crap all the time. Let's definitely move back into the sexual arena. I like that.
So I'd like to share this with you. Think about this. Men wake up and they often have an erection, and women are not interested in morning sex. It's a rare woman that loves sex in the morning. Women, their estrogen levels are the highest in the late afternoon and evening. As far as our libidos, men's libido is way stronger than women's. And I talk to God, and you know, you can question me on this. I'd be glad to answer your questions. But I was writing this book about Orgasm for Life, and actually God was the one that said, you need to write about sex. This is what people want. It's what motivates them. And I've been really highly criticized by the spiritual community about writing a sexual book. But who created sex after all? So I asked God, I said, well, why would you create humans, men and women, so vastly different? We're different in our desires. We're different in our makeup. Why aren't we more on the same page as far as libido? And he showed me a vision of a man and woman in the bedroom, and the man is banging her, and she's sprawled across the bed, you know, with her arm outstretched, and they're just engrossed in their pleasure. And the kids are coming into the bedroom crying, Mommy, Mommy, we're hungry. When are you and Daddy going to be done? And that's the issue. If men and women had exactly the same type of desire, all we would be doing is screwing and making love. It's all we would do, because that's all we'd want to do. So somebody has to have the focus, the feet on the ground, keeping the house clean, the kids fed, the laundry done. So that's why we don't have the same type of drive. It wouldn't work. And then the big cosmic joke is, okay, so now make your relationships work. Be happy with these differences and enjoy each other for the differences. And instead, what's happening is we hate each other because we're different. It reminds me of that shampoo commercial. I think it's for Pantene. Don't hate me because I'm beautiful. And that's exactly what we need to be doing. Instead of hating each other because we're different or beautiful, we need to love each other. Accept each other for the differences. What is the French used to say? Vive la différence.
Now, I refer, how much of our whole lifestyles and how much of it is based on what I call television, I said they don't call television programming for nothing, and that is a part of the indoctrination. They want you to believe a certain way, and it ain't always right. I mean, the '60s. I had a great time in the '60s. We were making love, we were smoking pot, and we stopped the war. We kind of changed our society, and I personally find that a good time and a good thing. I think we did good work back then. I helped stop a war selling peace symbols to special gifts.
Remember what the theme was back then?
Love.
Make love, not war.
That's right.
And when people are making love, they're not interested in warring. So do you think that the government wants us to make love? Do you think that the powers that be want us to be happy and blissful? Absolutely not. They want us to be miserable. So the great thing about loving ourselves and loving each other is that it will give the whole planet this energy of love and acceptance. And that's what we need. That's what this movement is all about. And instead of men putting women down, here's the other thing I want to bring up. And I talk about this in my book. Think about all the dirty language that F you son of a, I don't know what you can say on your radio show.
Well, on this radio show, you can say anything you damn well please.
Okay. Well, think about the words. Fuck you, you son of a bitch, you prick. And then, of course, the C word, which is really the worst word you could ever call a woman. Why on earth would we use these words to hurt or harm someone else when they're sexual body parts meant for making love? We have everything upside down. We should be revering each other's body parts instead of making them profane.
Well, and this is, I'll take this sentence here right from my webpage, right up at the top, right beneath the little red type talking about if we want to stand any chance in the fight against the 3,000-year-old Judeo-Christian vision of world domination, Goyim enslavement, and genocide, we need all hands on deck, and that includes yours. All we need to do is know what we want and be excited about what that would mean for mankind. A world without war, terror, slavery, deceit, exploitation, prostitution, perversion, killing of unborn babies, and the deliberate poisoning of bodies and minds. It would be a world where we don't have to work 45 out of 50 years to pay for interest and taxes. In other words, it would be bliss. It's our choice. A choice between good and evil, beauty and ugliness, truthfulness and pathological lying, decency and perversion, compassion, depression, a fair go for everyone, and taking advantage of your fellow men. I mean, that's what that's what I want. I call it a rebel vision. Be positive about it and enjoy it. Think, talk, and write about it as often as you can. Be disciplined without allowing any negativity sabotage that beautiful, blissful imagination. And always remember, thoughts become things. In other words, positive thoughts make positive things happen, but it also works the other way around. And I appreciate what you're doing. What you're doing is injecting positive thoughts into something that's really beautiful. I mean, I love making love to the right woman. It's I think it's a very beautiful thing. And unfortunately, other people, some women that I've run into, they have a whole different view of that. Well, I was just your slave. I was just your slave. Well, I get up every morning, go to work, do this radio show, publish the magazines, write books, and I give you the money. I mean, I think if anybody's a slave here, it might be me.
Well, that has to do with our attitude towards ourselves, how we feel about ourselves. And it's easy for someone who doesn't love themselves to blame you or blame someone else for how they feel. But we're not victims. We are not. And whatever trauma, and I would bet that woman was molested as a child, and so she was still being victimized, but it was by her own fault.
That's possible. That's possible. I thought I knew that woman pretty well. I was married to her for well over 20 years, but turns out I didn't know her at all.
Well, that's the problem in relationships, that we've been taught to not express ourselves fully, and we've not been taught how to communicate in a loving way. And so when conflict arises, we have a tendency to bash the other person instead of taking responsibility. And we're not hearing each other. And this is one of the things I talk about in my book. Yes, it's a book about sex, but I also spend a great deal of time talking about emotions and how to communicate with one another. Because if you can't speak openly, compassionately with your partner outside the bedroom, your sex isn't going to be as good. Your making love is going to be a battle. You're not going to be in the flow or synergistic in the bedroom. So having that open communication, I give lots of different processes to help people learn to resolve conflict. Because no relationship is ever going to be perfect. There isn't a perfect man out there or a perfect woman out there. You can search the world over. There is not one human being on this planet that's perfect. We all have flaws and faults, every single one of us. And so, I hear it all the time. When will I find my soulmate? It's such a bullshit idea.
Whoops. Still with me? It's, hang on, folks. Something just locked up here. Jennifer, you still with me? Okay, we've somehow I've shows everything's still hooked up. What are we doing in the chat room, guys? Can you hear anybody? I don't think so. What's happened here? Jennifer, can you hear me?
I'm so sorry. My phone got stuck.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. They have a tendency to block my phone occasionally, but I've got you now, and I've got everybody still up. All right. What about churches? Now, people have asked me, why don't you go to church? And I said, well, not. I'm in my church when I walk outside, but the churches. Let's talk about the Baptists. Somehow they think it's a bad thing to not to dance, and believe the Bible's got a lot of good information in there, but people tend to take it out of context and try to use it to justify some actions and and forbid other actions. How much attention should we pay to that, and how much should we be paying to ourselves? First of all, I don't believe in original sin, I believe that when we're born, we know good from evil. We know right from wrong. I think it's an instinctive thing. But, if you're not a Baptist, if you're not a Methodist, if you're not a Catholic, if you're not, we got problems.
Well, like I said before, my feeling is that God never intended there to be division. And man has created division by making us different, by making one church different from another. And I don't care what church it is, we are all one and the same. We all come from the same molecule. And to say that one church is better than another, that's not what God intended. And for me, I've been to many different churches, but I haven't attended church in a number of years because I don't need anyone to be between me and God. There is nobody that needs to tell me what God is saying because I hear God. And every single day I walk, as soon as I hang up with you, I am out into the desert and I spend an hour every day communing with God. And then throughout the day, I pray and we talk to one another. So there is this separation that's thought of that we need to have a minister or somebody that tells us what God is saying and thinking and feeling. We do not need that. And God everywhere. So church is where you are. You don't have to be in a building to be loving God, to be praising God, to be with God. You don't need to be anywhere but where you are.
Well,
and the other thing about the Bible, I want to add this. 48 books of the Bible were removed. So without those 48 books, the Bible isn't speaking 100% truth because man removed them. Because man wanted to control humans with fear. And with those books gone and the Dead Sea Scrolls, that's where you can find all the information about those books that were removed from the Bible. Without that, and you can visit Greg Braden. He talks because he has seen the Dead Sea Scrolls, so he knows what's in them. Without those 48 books, you're not looking at the whole truth. You're looking at part of the truth.
I've said at the Council of Nicaea that 350 A.D. they promoted Jesus to God because they didn't want men like me aspiring to be the kind of man he was. And you're right about them removing that. Now, I've said here, and again, right up here in my webpage, I said our First Amendment protects your right to worship who or how you wish. In our efforts to please, fit in, and conform, we forget that all religions were created by men just like us. Some loved us and tried to pass on their wisdom and conclusions to us and our errors with love. Others wanted to use the words for control and enslavement and the accumulation of riches through lies. When the brightest and best among us ran them from the temple, they were murdered, and the lies crafted to make their murderers into idols by calling them the chosen ones. Ask yourself, why would we allow the murderers of Jesus to create a graven image of his defeated corpse hanging on the instrument of torture used to kill him? Why would we adopt that as a symbol of a new religion?
Well, to cause enslavement, like you said, and you make some very valid points, okay?
I try. It's just what I do when I can't get no loving,
Speaking of loving, can I mention my blog and my website again?
Absolutely, my dear. We got 2 minutes, so they're all yours. You tell people how they can get a hold of you, where they can find you, and I will also have this up on my website.
Thank you. Well, my blog is Love Yourself Fearlessly, and I post regularly. I have lots of information there. My website is JenniferElizabethMasters.com. And my book will be out at the end of May, Orgasm for Life, Don't Fit. This is the book that bridges the gap between men and women and brings us together in love, sex, and harmony.
The title of the book again. Give me that title again.
Orgasm for Life.
Okay.
And you'll be able to find it on Amazon through my website. I will have an audiobook available as well to download on my website.
Okay, and your blog is Love Yourself
Fearlessly.
Fearlessly, okay.
You can Google Jennifer Elizabeth Masters and find me, that way too. I have lots of YouTube videos and information out there if you're interested in finding out how to love yourself or how to get a hold of me.
All right. I would love to do that. I'd love to have you back on again sometime in the very near future.
Thank you.
All right. God bless you. Thank you, dear. Bye-bye now.
Thank you.
Will transform America and why you want to be a jury educator.